Hello?
Oh, I think we called each other at the exact same time.
All right. I'm just trying to get you set up there.
All right, you ready?
Yeah, I'm good. Just oh, there you are. There you are. Yeah, perfect.
How you doing, man?
I'm good. It's been a busy day, but I'm relaxed now.
All right, that's good. That's
Ready to
good.
go.
That's good. I wanna the podcast I did yesterday. You need to watch that. It's a police sergeant from a big city in the United States, and he's been on the police force for 21 years. And he said right from the get go, he's like, from my experience, we would be so much better off if we decriminalized all drugs. And I was like, that's cool. That was the last
Yeah.
person you'd expect to hear it from. And I was like,
Yeah.
that's cool. So I told him about you, and I sent him our podcast, and I was like, you need to. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah. So
It's increasingly obvious, but
yeah,
still,
yeah,
they're going to cling on for as long as they can.
yeah,
Unfortunately.
yeah. They are. But he's the last guy you'd expect to say that, and because he's not looking at it like you and I are, like Terrence McKenna. It's if life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, blah blah blah. He was looking at it as like, we have to enforce these laws, and there are dangerous people that are gonna get the drugs here no matter what, and now you're putting police officers' lives in danger. So that's how he was looking at it. He was like, we don't need to be sending in guys with guns. He was like, to get people with a pot leaf, and so I was like, yeah, but yeah. So for you're Dominic Milton Trott. We did I believe you were on episode number 13, and we talked about your new book, The Drug User's Bible, and there it is. I'll link it in the description. And you did an AMA on Reddit, which was awesome, and we talked about the book, which was awesome, and we got off into the weeds and went all philosophical and political, and we had to finish it up, but I was just thinking, like, I kind of want to hear some of your experiences, so I messaged you, and I was like, we did the book, we did politics. I was like, I just want to hear it from you. I want to hear it from the man who did it. So you said yes, and here we are. So
yeah. I thought when you asked that question, a handful of examples, I sort of thought, well, which drugs should I talk about? And what I tried to do was pick three different experiences which were radically different to each other across three different classes of drugs, rather than a typical psychedelic experience. I thought we'll go across the breadth of the drugscape and pick three different experiences, and with one of them I can link into other subjects. So I sort of picked them just randomly, generally, other than making sure they were in different areas of the drugscape, which is what I've done.
Yeah.
So this one, the first was Bangladesh. The second was crystal methamphetamine.
Mm-hmm.
The final one was Salvia divinorum, which I think you've done.
I've not done salvia. I have not done salvia.
You haven't? Okay.
No. I've seen people. I remember being with a friend summer 2010. Watched him smoke it, and it wore off, and then another friend smoked it, and I watched like three guys in a row do it, and it got to me, and I was like, I just watched all three, and I was like, I don't want to do this, so I didn't do it. I was like, nope, not for me. But
well, I did it 3 times, but I'll come on to that.
Oh Jesus! All right, so unlike all the other podcasts where I never shut up and I talk nonstop and I interrupt my guests, which I'm doing right now, I'm giving you the floor. I want you to. So don't wait for me to respond. Don't wait for me to. I don't want people to listen to this for me. I want to hear your experiences and maybe get them interested in the book. So let's go.
Okay.
The floor is yours.
Okay, we'll start with Bangladesh. I mean, for people who haven't seen the first podcast, I self-administered 157 different drugs and wrote about the safety and created safety data for each of the drugs, so that people hopefully won't make mistakes and and won't end up killing themselves if they're intent on taking the drug. And where it was possible and appropriate, I would travel to the original authentic source of the drug. So I went to Peru to do ayahuasca and so on and so forth. One of those adventures, traveling episodes was recently. It was to India, to a place called Varanasi, and it's for what you might think is everybody's done the drug. It's cannabis, but in this particular part of the world, they don't. It's generally used for spiritual reasons, and they use edibles, only not just edibles. They use this preparation known as bhang, BHANG.
Okay.
And it's part of the ancient Hindu tradition. And what they produce is it's a sort of a yogurty type milky drink. Can be different flavours, and they infuse cannabis into that. Then they drink it out of a bowl, and then they do this meditative, spiritual thing to basically, as part of their, it's not really religion, their philosophical / religious practice. So I'd had plenty of experience with cannabis, obviously, and I'd used edibles quite a lot over many years. So, I wasn't really a sort of priority because it's just cannabis, and I'd done enough of it not to be that sort of excited about it. But I thought, well, I really should do this. So I planned and off I went to Varanasi. Now it's legal in this part of India, in cannabis, so there wasn't really any problem. And I've researched that there are, I knew because I've been to India for other adventures, that there's a drink called lassi, which doesn't have cannabis in it. What the drink that has cannabis is called bhang lassi or special lassi. Okay. So I researched special lassi in Varanasi, and it's sold all over the place. But there's 3 particular lassi shops, which is what they call, that were prominently cited. The blue lassi shop, some lassi shop that I can't remember the name, and the green lassi shop. So off I went to Varanasi, and I thought, well, I'll go to any one of those. It doesn't matter to me. I'd worked out where they were on the map. And Varanasi as a place was spectacular. I mean, if you've not been to India, India is alive with sound and colour and smells, and it's an extraordinary experience. And it's a great place to go for a break because your senses come alive. Okay. It's a bit like a trip in that, the felt presence of immediate experience, the power of now, all these philosophical endpoints are made easier if you're suddenly plopped into a completely strange culture. You're aware of your senses.
Yes.
And it's like that because it's sort of the sort of culture itself is just completely different, and it's a bit like a time warp in many respects. So on the day I decided to take the bhang lassi, I went to started off on the Ghats, and the Ghats are what it's mainly famous for tourists, which is on the Ganges, on the river. There's sort of steps leading down, and these go for miles and miles. So I walked along them for a couple of hours, and then I sort of cut back in where I felt that the green lassi shop would approximately be. And lo and behold, I found it very easily. Okay. I asked a young guy who looked like a hippie, actually, and he said, I went to the blue lassi shop. But he got his Google thing out. His phone. It's 100 metres down there, and it was. Yeah. So I got to this shop, and there was a chap behind the sort of counter. And he was facing the road, but tucked away, and he was sort of busy around and crazy. And I said, "Can I have a bhang lassi light?" because I was in the middle of an Indian city. I really didn't want to be completely out of my tree.
Yeah.
So I sort of looked at me, So I prepared it, and so I dollop a lump of cream on the top of it, and this sort of green fluid went in, which was the cannabis. And he handed it over, and I handed him over the cost, which was $2 of US dollars, £1.50. And he said, "Can you face the counter and drinking it?" So I sat down on this little bench and sipped away, and it tasted quite nice, actually. It tasted like eating yogurt. Didn't taste cannabis-like, which surprised me. So what I then did is, when I finished it, I went walking through the town, like a sort of regular tourist, really. But it was nice. I could feel it sort of starting to take effect. And it was like a sort of light cannabis buzz and mellowing, sort of, as is fairly normal and typical of an edible. But after about an hour, I started having every passing thought seemed to have a sinister edge to it.
You had what?
A sinister edge.
Oh.
I suddenly then I started realising that, I recognise this. This is a sort of anxiety and paranoia that certain strains can induce.
Yeah.
And of course, this is the sort of safety part of it, that, people do have bad experiences on cannabis.
Yeah.
And usually there's this balance, as you're well aware, that between CBD and THC, and obviously there's lots of other active molecules, but primarily those two. And the mix between them will determine the type of experience that you have. And the short answer is, well, if that strain gives you an anxiety and a not very good experience, do this, reduce the THC and increase the CBD. Well, obviously, there's none of that available. You do, it's take it as it is.
Yeah.
So I had this bang lassie, and I realised that, everybody's out to get me. So I'm looking around at people.
They're coming.
Is he looking at me?
Yeah.
So what I decided to do was, I thought, okay, I know what I'll do. So I'll go back down to the gas. It's a bit quieter, the river, and hopefully I'll just be able to chill out and relax, and this will go away. So I go down, find the way down to the ghats, and of course, when I immediately arrive at the ghats, there's a Hindu burial ceremony underway, and what they do is they cover the deceased with wood. And they burn them, and then they float them off on the Ganges. So I thought, this is an amazing, fantastic experience. So I sort of edged around conspicuously. I didn't want to be part of it. So there was a safe distance to sit down and watch this spectacular event take place, and I could see bodies lining up, and so there's not just one. And wow. I just sat down, and very, very quickly it started sort of glued to this, thinking, wow, okay, so that's what they do. And so quickly, sort of from being a pretty groovy thing, it started to turn bad and full on gruesome. I started thinking about, oh my God, they're burning bodies.
They're burning bodies.
I can see a dead body there, and there's blood, and it was, so I started to. The longer I sat there, the worse this ride became. So I think the cannabis, it was an unfortunate strain. I was getting slightly paranoid walking around the street, so I'm sitting and I'm in the middle of the bodies being burned.
Jesus.
So it gets worse.
No kidding.
The point of this is, don't do as I do, folks. So the bodies are being burned. I think, I've got to get out of here. I can't take this anymore. So then I do a runner up back to the town, and I'm thinking, I need to get back to the hotel, and it's 40 minutes away.
Yeah.
And the only tenable form of transport is a tuk-tuk.
Yeah.
Which is a little rickshaw type thing, and a back, and I saw these people offering me a ride. This guy comes up to me. He looks about 12, so I said, no, I'm okay, thank you. So I'm thinking I must find a mature tuk-tuk driver. So I looked for one that looked sensible. And I need to get in the tuk-tuk. And then I realised it's the horror movie part 2. I'm in the middle of an Indian road on a tuk-tuk, and these places are wild.
Yeah.
There's vehicles coming at you from every direction. You're bouncing around on potholes, and I'm on this thing for 40 minutes thinking I'm going to die. So holding on with white knuckles for all the time, thinking, looking for something that will tell me I'm nearly back at base.
Yeah.
And of course, it was an absolute eternity before that happened in my mind. I eventually, though, I got back. I mean, it was torturous. And it was torturous because of the fear, but also because my mouth was dry.
Yeah.
One of the effects of edibles can be to make it, you need water. And I was in the back of a tuk-tuk in the heat for 40 minutes, not being able to do anything about it. I couldn't really talk.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the language, because they merely spoke a bit of English at least.
Yeah.
It was the fact I couldn't talk. My mouth was so
dry. You're anxious.
And I was sort of panicking, thinking, well, what words can I say? Excuse me, I'm completely stoned. And it was not a good strain for me. And I'm paranoid, so I'll just hang on. Eventually I got back and I managed to lie down in the room and calm down a bit and watch a bit of Indian television and go to sleep and get up. And obviously I was perfectly okay after that. I drank a few hours. The lesson is, I think there were three or four lessons for me. One is complacency. One of the things I actually talk about in that frequently is complacency with safety.
Okay.
It's so easy to sort of be so excited or looking forward to what you're doing, or you just forget to be rigorous. And there's a pure example of me complacent, thinking, this will be, so I wasn't prepared for, an intensive trip at all, an intensive journey at all. I was sort of expecting, it's only kindness.
Yeah.
And of course, second thing was the dose. And as for Banglassi Light, this sure as hell wasn't Banglassi Light. So obviously there was a communication error between me and the guy who was selling it, and he clearly didn't quite get what I was talking about. He might have thought he meant Banglassi strong or make me light-headed.
Make me light, or make me
send me crazy.
Make me see the light. Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. So the dose, complacency, because be sure you know what you're taking, and if you're in somewhere that you're not familiar with, be aware of that. Have a safe haven close by.
Yeah.
And looking back on the mistakes I made here, 40 minutes from the hotel bedroom in the middle of India and completely off my head. It wasn't really great planning, was it?
It's not.
So there's another one. Make sure you're actually close to a safe haven, and as with psychedelics, by the way, and a lot of other drugs, but in this particular case, that would have made life a lot easier if you could have just popped 5 minutes back and recovered and not have been endured. To endure a 40-minute ride from hell. And just generally, I think, don't take things for granted. But I think the main lesson was the complacency, and don't take the cannabis as though, or any drug that you're familiar with. Just don't underestimate it. I completely did that, and I made a series of bad decisions there. Which I shouldn't have done, and they were all really back down to the fact that that's going to be cannabis. What could possibly go wrong? And it's funny that it was funny when I look back at the sort of sequence of events. I blundered from one disaster to another, and it just got worse and worse. But it wasn't funny at the time.
No, it's
it was quite traumatic.
It's terrifying.
And again, even though I've had so many drugs, it was still traumatic. And even though I knew what was going on, and that they're not really out to get me, and this is the drug. Even though I knew that, it was still very, very uncomfortable. So complacency. Just don't do it. I mean, would I do it again? Yes, yeah, absolutely. I would do it again.
Sure.
But I would do it correctly. I mean, this thing is the bottom line. It's actually a spiritual journey in ancient tradition. That's what the whole thing's set up for.
Mm-hmm.
It's not there to pique the curiosity of an aging European psychonaut. That's not what it's there for. So I was abusing it to some degree, and which fair enough. So maybe I deserved it.
Yeah, there are.
But if you're gonna bring lassie, or if you're gonna have any drug, but even cannabis, in a strange place and under strange circumstances, just plan it a bit better than I did.
Yeah,
and make sure you have somewhere to go, and make sure that you're communicating properly, and you're sure of the dose, and that you actually, you know where you're going to go if things go wrong. I should have thought through, if this goes badly, what am I going to do? No, I know what I'll do. I'll go and watch some bodies being burned. No, then I can go and I can get on the back of this tuk-tuk on this crazy ride that's so busy. It's just undescribable, really. So that was bang lassie.
Yeah, I feel like
anybody else having that, because it's probably it could be a great experience.
Yeah,
but fortunately, I'm up to that one up.
Those are all things that I feel like those experiences would all be anxiety-inducing without the bang lassie. I feel like just watching bodies being burned, being on like a crazy road in India and not being able to speak.
I mean, I'm used to India, and
okay.
And a lot of people go to India and they get they're lost when they first go into a major city. I mean, Varanasi is more Indian than virtually any other city in India.
Okay.
It's more historical. It's more sort of compressed, and it's a great place to visit. But a lot of people go to India and it's just too different for them.
Yeah.
It's just so culturally different to what they used to, that there's this struggle, and they get scared, and they're fried. The tuk-tuk drivers are generally really good drivers.
Yeah.
You'd have to be pretty good to be able to survive more than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And because I've been a few times, and I'm okay with it, and I'm okay with tuk-tuk ride, just because I'm sort of tune into where I am, but the cannabis changed all that. It's made it all more threatening than it actually was. So, it's if you're not familiar with that with India and you go there, then it's probably going to be a big enough culture shock
in itself.
Without doing something like bang lassie. So I probably would recommend that don't go to India for your first time to do bang lassie.
Yeah,
because you're gonna have so much going on in your head and around you, and that you might struggle to. You might love it. I mean, so many people do. It's a great place to go.
Yeah.
But some people are like, oh no, it's good.
Yeah.
They're all asking me questions.
Yeah. It's
so yeah, that can happen. But I think it's a fantastic country to visit, like anything, if you take the wrong drug in the wrong place, you can have
terrible. Yeah,
you have a bit of a turgid time, and I certainly did.
Yeah.
So hopefully, there's a few suggestions on how not to do it incorrectly, and how not to embark on a bad trip.
Yeah, it's kind of what, like, I think might have been Terrence McKenna, and might have just, I don't know who, maybe it wasn't. But it was talking about, like, it wasn't even talking about psychedelics. It was just talking about edibles. And it was like, don't let your ego get ahead of you. Don't, I've taken edibles 100 times. I'll be fine. Because the second you get a little bit of pride, a little bit of, confidence, the drug will wipe that smile right off your face.
It's just so true. I mean,
it'll beat you
right into your place. That's exactly what I did.
Yeah,
on cannabis, I thought there's nothing that cannabis can do to me that I've not experienced with it already.
Yeah.
And I was sort of right but wrong.
Yeah.
It was a series of events which just shouldn't have happened the way they did. And, I was just so I felt pretty good the next day that I got through that. Yeah. That's not going to happen again.
Got through another one. And the next one is crystal meth.
The next one is methamphetamine.
Okay. Give me one. I'll be back in 30 seconds. Let me use the bathroom. If you can't tell, I always gotta go to the bathroom.
No problem. I'll talk randomly.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Dominic Milton Trott, and hopefully, what I've put in the book will help you if you take drugs, not make the sort of mistakes that I describe in the book, and hopefully be safer. No drug is drug-free. It's risk-free, but the book is intended to mitigate some of the risks that you're exposing yourself to. And it's on Amazon. I'm struggling now what to say to you, but I'll show you the book again. There it is, 514 pages. I've organised it, I think I said this in the last podcast, into chemicals and botanicals by and large, with the first section being chemicals like powders and so on. And the second part being the botanicals, which are the plants and the seeds and the roots, a lot of which I had to do travelling for. So I've tried to make it interesting as well as informative, with little anecdotes similar to the one I've just given on Bang Lassie.
Yeah.
Okay, you're back.
Yeah, I am. Let's go.
Okay, methamphetamine. This is clearly one of the most infamous drugs that in society. It's crystal meth. It's got various other names: ice, pristine, so on and so forth. And I had this well into the writing of the book. I'd had a lot of drugs beforehand, and the reason I'd scheduled it late on was partly fear, partly because of crystal meth.
Yeah.
But partly because I'd left the illegal drugs later on.
Why was that?
Because I knew I'd have to travel and it would be more difficult to get hold of them and so on and so forth. So methamphetamine, I obtained, I think it was 100 milligrams, and I'll show you a picture of it.
Okay.
So that you can, there you go, it's a black and white picture. It's sort of there, it's in that sort of. Okay. And as you can see why it's called ice and sometimes called glass. It's crystal and it's transparent. And what you do is you scrape it and make it into a sort of fine powder. Okay. And then you snort it like cocaine. And what did I have? 100? I think it was 100 milligrams. 92 milligrams actually in the end. About 100 milligrams. I weighed it, and I've got a list in the book of things you must do, the 10 commandments of safer drug use. One is obviously weighed. So I weighed it, and turned out that I've been shortchanged and had 92 milligrams of crystal meth in my little tray. Yeah. And I'd had amphetamine, which is similar earlier, so I probably knew what it was going to be like, and I'd had a lot of other analog stimulants. So I started off by sort of preparing lines of 10 milligrams each. And just a bit more background. I mean, it's not a new drug. It's been used for quite a number of years. And like amphetamine, it was actually used in the war, the Second World War.
Yeah, Nazi Germany. It was.
Yeah, they used it on the pile. I think it was kamikaze pilots in Japan, and
Yeah.
they'd use it to keep them awake and to make them fearless and to fight more effectively.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's got quite a history to it before it became a sort of infamous street drug. So I started to snort this, and the early lines, 20 milligrams, 30 milligrams, I started to experience sort of heady sort of stimulation. I wouldn't say that I was particularly high, in that I had any euphoria, but I was certainly, I can feel something in my head, and I'm not tired, and so that's probably the therapeutic sort of levels that I was going through, and sort of wait 10 minutes and then I'd have another 10 milligrams. And it's a fairly typical way of proceeding, I believe. I think I got to about 40 or 50 when I suddenly realised that I was having a wonderful time. I was starting to, obviously, all the anxieties had gone, and the euphoria was starting to sort of edge into play, and I was focused and interested in what I was doing, and wow, this is quite good. So I had another 10, and then somewhere around that, I sort of thought, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I'm sort of, not a care in the world. I'm sort of energized.
Yeah.
I'm hot, really hot, because obviously it affects your metabolic rate, your heart's pumping, and you've got higher blood pressure, but these are the sort of things that I should be concerned about. But under the influence, you sort of not at all.
Yeah.
If I sort of sat here rationally, and I sort of realised, oh my God, my blood pressure's sky high, and God, something's wrong. What if I die? And none of this stuff goes through your head.
Okay.
It's just everything's fantastic, and then I do some sort of standard test. I sort of look at me and my God, my eyeballs are dilated. Check me thing, and so what? And then I check for libido and sexual impulse. Yeah. And I'm going to come on to this in a minute because it's associated with methamphetamine.
Yeah, it is.
Largely, but other drugs. Now I'll do a sort of segment on chemsex drugs in a second. But so I check that, thinking, oh yeah, what? Yeah, right, okay, yeah. That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
And this continues, and one of the things I sort of realised when I got to 70 and 80 milligrams, and thinking, I wouldn't stop. If I had 200 milligrams there.
Oh.
I'm sort of well aware at that point.
Yeah.
Just give me more.
Yeah.
Keep it coming. Another round. Keep it coming. And I got to 92 and I'd had it, and it was about 3-4 hours, and it just went on a number of other hours. It went on 7, 8, 9 hours, and all the way through it was a really, really enjoyable experience. It was euphoric. I was energy. I was really focused on what I was doing, and information stuff couldn't come fast enough for me.
Yeah,
and I was completely, zombified almost. But I felt that I could hide it.
Okay.
If in certain drug classes, you sort of feel that, God, if a person comes in, I'm completely screwed because they're going to know.
Yeah.
Now, whether I could or not is another matter, but I felt that I'm perfectly okay. I can hide this. And the only way to do it was to go out and make a complete fool of myself, which I didn't do. I stayed in the place I was.
Now, did you have any temptation to find more?
I knew I couldn't.
Okay.
I mean, one of the steps I took was by 100 because, I think that I'll be fine on that from my research if I spread it out as a max. I'll target 50. I'll try and go for 50. And I'll have, I'll make sure I definitely can't go above 100. And I made sure I didn't have any contact. I don't know any dealers. I mean, I'm not that sort of. I'm not a sort of drug user in the sort of habitual sense.
Yeah.
So, and I was away from here, so I certainly didn't have, any. I can go out and get me anyone on the internet, and just no access.
Okay.
So I knew that whatever happens, like I've got this backdrop 50. Even if I have that, then I can't get any more. So that was the sort of plan.
Okay.
And it was a good plan because I would have carried on.
Yeah.
I would have carried on. I don't know how long I would have carried on. I certainly would have continued to snort this stuff because, logic went out of the window.
Sure.
And one of the, and I learned things from that. I learned that the theory that, that I had in play about, put it out of reach and this stuff is supposed to be a compulsive redosing substance. That's not theory, it's fact. So I learned a lot, but I also learned on a higher level that I was sort of thinking about, well, there's something I need to put at the front of the book about stimulants, but most classes of drugs, not psychedelics, but most of the classes of drugs. And I ended up calling it "What Goes Up Must Come Down." Mm-hmm. And what I meant by that was clearly you go up and you come down. It's not that then. What I meant by that is you have lots of classes of drugs. Take alcohol as an example. When you consume alcohol, you're consuming it for this bit of the elevation, the sort of quasi-euphoria where you're going up and you reach a peak. Unfortunately, then you're getting a bit sedated with the alcohol and then tired, and then you're not feeling so great. And the next morning, and by now you're below baseline. So you're going down, and then maybe in the morning you start to come back up, and you eventually get back towards baseline, and you're normal again. That's your typical alcohol. Sure. That sort of curve applies to, most drugs outside the psychedelic arena. Okay. And I sort of did a sort of little example in the book to try and illustrate and explain this, that these drugs, they're the same in terms that you go up, you come down, you go under par, you come back to normality. But that shape is different drug by drug. I've just sort of explained the alcohol curve, but the crystal meth curve is a sort of hope goes up another many times higher than alcohol. Yeah. Eventually you come down and you go well under, because the next morning after I'd had this experience, I was like, oh God, I'm drained. I'm like a car without any oil in it trying to run. Really? My brain's sort of like this organ that I'm aware of this organ in my head, and it's not really where it's not mechanically, it's rusty. And I've got no energy, and so I was like that. And normally I'd expect, sort of, you get this on other drugs, cocaine, MDMA. You come back up reasonably short period and back to normal. Well, with methamphetamine, you endure this short-term rottiness, this sort of lack of any energy, But the actual period it takes to come back up to the baseline, to I'm normal again, this is what I'm like, is longer.
Really?
Yeah, it's longer than these other drugs. And the other part of it is, depending on what you've done, it can sometimes take, and how much you've had and how often, it can take years to get back. I'm not saying you're necessarily suicidal all the time, but to actually get back to where you were before.
Yeah, you're right below.
you sort of can get close to it, or you can dip it around. It can take a long, long time, and this is why people, say that it sucks the life out of you. It sucks the joys of life from you.
Yeah, or
because that is what it does do.
Yeah.
For me, on that one occasion, I was, I'm still not I'm back to normal, but in certain situations, I sort of remember the high and the experience of crystal meth. And it's always my God, that was wonderful.
Yeah.
Now that's not good.
No.
That's still, there, because
there.
It's if I wasn't, depending on who I was and what situation was in life, that temptation is always going to be there.
Yeah.
Because I know you get hold of this and you've got this extreme joy.
Yeah.
But because I'm perhaps older and wiser, I can look at it more philosophically and think, source this shit afterwards.
Yeah.
Source this week or 2 weeks, whatever long it took me to get back, and source these potential years to actually, get completely back to normal if I made a habit of this stuff.
Yeah.
So, you can read horror stories all over the internet.
I have
from addicts and people who've had this stuff and they didn't realise that. It had this longer term effect. It wasn't just like a cocaine binge. It wasn't just like a high on something else. It's sort of more fundamental in many ways.
Okay.
In terms of how it gets hold of you, and how you're constantly looking at back. Now this is where I wanted to run into chemsex.
Okay.
This is why I put it on the agenda.
Okay.
Because there are important issues here that are specific to methamphetamine, but also to some other drugs. People use meth and other drugs to enhance the sexual experience.
Sure.
It can be whatever it is you're into, alone or with a partner or whatever you're doing, and clearly it does now. And you can read all over the internet. People go on, they have 48-hour sexual encounters.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Or they masturbate solidly for 36 hours.
Yeah.
And these are real stories, real people.
Yeah.
And you scratch the surface and it's surprisingly common.
Yeah.
Now, what they're doing is they're actually generating serotonin, dopamine, and they're having this high from the sex. And they're mixing it with the high from the methamphetamine or other drug, and it's actually taking them to a higher plateau than is not achievable, than is achievable without the drug.
Okay.
Right. Now, so you've had this sexual encounter or series thereof, and it's been absolutely miles, 10 times, 100 times better than you've ever had before. Well, here's the thing. It's also 100 times better than you're ever going to have again.
Yeah.
And think about, what that's going to do for your longer-term relationships. You go and you're not going to be satisfied to the same degree as you were with this drug in your system.
Yeah.
So it's going to have an impact on longer term relationships.
You're going to want to use it to get that spark back.
So there's various things can ensue from that. One is you can want more.
Yeah.
But the least thing that's going to happen is that it's gonna have a negative impact on your quality of your life, because part of your quality of your life is sex, and that's going to be sort of disappointing in a relative sense.
Yeah.
For the foreseeable future. I'm not saying it won't come back eventually, but this is not. Yeah. Myth. This is not exaggeration. This is how it is, folks.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think? Do you think it could be used? Do you think it could be used for couples to rekindle their sex life? I mean, it wouldn't be. It'd be older couples.
Well, of course it could. Yeah. No doubt at all. They'd have a wild time.
Yeah. But
then again, that's the only way they could have the wild time.
Yeah.
And they end up being meth addicts.
Yeah. But it's like, when you're young, you're my age, 29, that's not really a problem. You can switch it up. Let's say you're an older couple, and I don't think it'd necessarily be like, let's bring back our sex life, so much as it might be like, you could acknowledge beforehand, like, this is going to be like a one-time thing. Like, they could enjoy that experience one more time, Yeah. Maybe maybe their love life hasn't been for 10 years or something. The risk is, hey, you might become meth addicts. But I was thinking, like, it'd be, you could sort of be young one more time.
It would definitely help to do that for the one occasion.
Yeah, it'd be one more time. Well, you could go back in time.
You could have, well, let's do it one more time. I mean, but there's all sorts of risks with it.
Like heart attacks.
Yeah. This is, it is a real problem, because, once you start stacking up these sort of, sex with a drug, it's really sort of, you're in an area where you're going to want to do it again far more than if you don't. For me, it's bad enough just having it, and I'm sort of thinking, well, if I'd had it in that sort of situation, it would be even worse, even more difficult to sort of come to terms with the recovery and put it out of my mind, which is, what I eventually did. On Chemsex, I'm going to mention some of the drugs that are used for this, because I know people are interested. I mean, one of the things people have said is you'd be very bold about sex, haven't you?
Yeah.
Well, not really. I've just stated, what the drugs do.
Yeah.
It's you need information, and it's just informative. So stimulants are the first class, and what I wrote an article on this for. This is in the book as well. For Release, which is a drug charity. So certain stimulants produce the most primal, prolonged and intensive orgasmic pleasure, which is what I've basically just described. Cannabinoids, cannabis, help you to get lost in the moment and flow with it.
Mm-hmm.
People use cannabis as a sex drug. At low doses, psychedelics can take you to a different place and enhance physical sensitivity. Particularly the 2C. 2CB was originally sold under the name Eros and Nexus as a sex aid.
Okay.
And they sort of take your head and I don't know if I take your head in a different place, but they make your skin tingle.
Okay.
And there's that physical sort of feel about them. And that's the fourth one is empathogens like MDMA, which is very much like that, and increases empathy, which you can see the relationship with it. So I put those as the four main chemsex drug classes, and a lot of people talk about GHB and even alcohol, but then believe me, they're not. They're relaxants.
Yeah, they're not.
They don't enhance.
Yeah.
If you've had
it makes it worse.
You know that GHB
doesn't work.
Isn't that at all?
No.
It's a relaxant, and it can help you, mood and stuff, I guess. But that's all. And onto the risks, and I'm going to tell you what the sex drugs are. You need to know what the risks are and what the problems are and what not to do. The way I've described it, I think this is from the book, a high water mark can be reached which is not attainable without the drug. This is a poison chalice. It causes a number of subsequent problems, making normal sexual activity relatively unfulfilling, with obvious and very real implications for relationships. Don't trivialise or dismiss this aspect. It is not as uncommon as you might think. And that's the one I just spent a few minutes describing. Often related to this is an ongoing craving for the sexual payload of the drug in question. Added to its existing hooks, this potent additional inducement can accelerate the path to addiction. Be constantly aware of this and take full account of it. Well, do you need, some of these drugs are addictive, crystal meth's addictive. Do you really need extra inducements to take? The answer is you don't.
Yeah.
And if you're anywhere prone to addiction, and I guess everybody is to some degree, you know that this is a risk.
Yeah, it's this.
What you're doing is not just, I'm just doing a drug on a different thing. You're doing something and using it for a purpose that's gonna make addiction more likely.
Yeah,
because it's gonna make it more attractive.
Yeah.
And here's the important one, which I'm glad I've got the same. Important to bear in mind that under the influence, judgment is often impaired, and that events can develop quickly and potentially without due deliberation. It is probably not the best idea for a single party to heavily engage whilst the other doesn't. Equally, parameters and boundaries should be agreed beforehand. Okay, so you typically have a couple who are going to have a drug, one of these sex-enhancing drugs. Well, whilst under the influence, you're going to, do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And it might not be what you wanted to do when you were sober.
Yeah, yeah.
So understand that, any boundaries that you have, they need to be agreed. Because if you go with the flow, you'll just follow the flow for sexual gratification, wherever that may take you.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you're going to lose a lot of control.
Yeah.
So agree the boundaries and parameters before you actually use a drug in this arena.
Yeah, yeah.
For sure. And finally, and this is, again, it sounds trivial, but it's not really. Finally, the compound stress of both sex and drugs on the body should be carefully contemplated, particularly by those predisposed to medical conditions. So when you engage in sexual activity, you're putting your body under strain. Your rate's going to increase. Fine, it's what people do, normal.
Yeah.
When you have a drug, the same thing's likely to occur. When you have them together, you're putting extra stress on because you're combining those two.
Yeah.
Those two routes to the same, to higher heart rate, higher blood pressure, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So just be aware of that. And if you are sort of dodgy in any way, shape, or form, maybe it's something that you wouldn't do.
Yeah, it's
okay.
Yeah, it's what you said earlier. To touch on it, you said, there's no need to add another addictive layer to an already addictive compound. The draw though is like, it's for someone that wants to experience that uppermost level of intoxication, and it's someone like me, like I'm very curious about that. But for that reason, I mean, I've gotten drunk, I've smoked weed, I've done psychedelics on 4 occasions in my life. I've never touched cocaine or amphetamine not because I look at it like that. I look at it and I know myself, and I look at it and I don't think I would let myself come back down, or I think I would, rationally I could say, oh, you do it once and then don't do it again. I know myself, and I know that my rationality would go out the window. And hey, more power. I have some friends that, in college they tried it. Yeah, tonight we're going to try cocaine. Some did it. Some maybe did it more afterwards. Others did it, and they said, yeah, that was cool. It wasn't for me. I stayed away from it because I know myself. I don't think I could do it. I don't want to. or I take that back. I do want to, and because of that, I'm not going to. You know, I'll wait. I'll wait until I'm older and I've lived a long life and I've, you know, I'm financially secure, and I'm like, you know what, if shit happens, shit happens. But I'm 29 right now, and I'm like, to me, it's
knowing what can happen. And you're right. You know, you take a decision based on risk for you. That's how it should be.
Yeah, it's
and what this, you know, the reason for the book, the reason for the chemsex thing is, you know, it's no good hiding the fact that there are drugs there that enhance the sexual experience, because people know it.
Yeah.
It's how, you know, forget it, lads. Don't try and hide it anymore. It's known.
Yeah.
You know, what's not known so much is you know, obviously the details of the particular drugs and the nuances between what they actually do, which I've covered. But what's not known is the implications of doing that. You know, what can go wrong and what you should plan for.
Yeah.
You know, be aware that it's going to affect your relationships in the longer term. Be aware that it's likely to increase the probability that you'll be get addicted to the drug.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you want to combine it again.
Yeah.
And that could be aware that your judgment's going to be impaired in the sexual circumstance, because you're just going to be completely focused on gratification.
Yeah.
That is what's going to happen with methamphetamine. That's what's going to happen, and be aware of the stresses on your body. You know, these are things that people don't talk much about openly about sex in a lot of places. They don't talk openly about drugs, so there's even less information about chemsex on the risks of and how to mitigate those than there is for other uses of drugs, for normal drug use, or for sexual issues. You know, sort of two separate sort of grey areas that society sort of has problems
wants
with.
To talk about.
And if you have a bit of both together, you know, that's definitely going to fall through the gaps and not be discussed, and people are not going to be alerted to the risks and the issues and the routes to avoid a catastrophe. Yeah, which is exactly why I wrote about it.
Yeah, it's a very it's not just like, oh, I did these drugs and I had sex on it, let me tell you. It's like, no, it's a whole other dimension of. You could just say sex is another drug.
It comes with its own additional issues.
Yeah.
In terms of risk. Yeah. And in terms of risk mitigation.
Yeah.
That are separate to just drug issues and risk mitigation.
Yeah.
There's an additional set that apply to the use of drugs in that situation.
Yeah. It's
and that's why I wanted to cover chemsex when I did methamphetamine, because meth is the headliner and star, if you like, of the chemsex world.
Yeah.
And it starts with probably possibly the most addictive and moreish and compulsive redosing drug that there is, possibly arguable, but I would certainly put it up there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you've got two books there, and can lead to a complete disaster if you're not absolutely careful and you don't know what you're doing. So play safely, kids, and check it all out before you do anything like that.
Yeah, like I said, I feel like it's one of those things you'd want to do when you're older, when you don't have years and years of sex in front of you, because you don't want to ruin it. It's like it's a great dessert. You should have it after you have the meal, because you're going to always want to go
You're
back
probably
to
older. If you're older, you're more likely to be able to deal with the other implications. You're more philosophical.
Yeah.
And you're possibly going to be more likely to take some of these warnings I'm giving it seriously.
Yeah, not just whatever. I'm 18.
I'll be all right. Look at him. He's exaggerating more than not.
Yeah.
But if you're older, you're going to know that this makes sense. That could make it difficult to actually enjoy sex again for quite a while.
Yeah.
And if that's what you're prepared to sell for the, the occasion, that's your choice.
Yeah.
But if you're older, you're possibly more likely to actually understand that's what I'm saying, and that's correct.
Yeah.
And it makes logical sense, really, if you think about it. It shouldn't be earth-shattering news to anyone.
Yeah.
It does make sense.
Yeah.
But there it is laid out. So hopefully that helps people avoid a disaster in that area.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, what we got next? Salvia divinorum.
You're gonna have to excuse me to use the bathroom. I've drank so much water. I think I'm sick. I was sick the last time I talked to you, and I think I'm getting sick again. And I kind of hope I don't have coronavirus and that I'm dying. So I
think you'll be all right.
I think
I'll talk again.
I'll be back in 30 seconds. Sorry. I gotta go again.
So what are we going to talk about now? I mentioned chemicals, section 2, and section 3 was the botanicals, which are all the plants and seeds and so on, and the ones that I did most of the travel for. The last section is called Worldscape, and what I tried to do with that was provide a sort of outside view. And I've got basically tables of relative harms of the different drugs. I've got legal information in case you run into trouble with the law. I've got, if you've got a mandatory blood test from your employer, what you can do about that. Basically covering safety and welfare in a more general outside type perspective, from a general outside perspective, and that's in section 4. I've got things like a drug dictionary in there as well, and drug tourism, because people like to travel to places to take drugs. So I've tried to give some advice on if you're touring and you're travelling. So on. So that's the final section, and here's Tom back again. So I know that was the advert.
All right.
The adverts are finished. Right, Salvia divinorum.
Oh God, yeah.
Have I got a picture of Salvia divinorum? I have somewhere. There we go. Yeah. There you go, Salvia divinorum. I can't see it. Let me just. There, I can see it. Okay. Salvia divinorum.
Okay.
Now, it's sort of like a smoking material, like tobacco.
Yeah.
And Salvia divinorum is actually a plant in Mexico, and traditionally it's chewed.
Okay.
It's only recently been discovered relatively. And I think you mentioned Terence McKenna earlier. He does a 5-minute, one of these most famous clips on YouTube, is "We interrupt this program for a public service announcement. A brand new psychedelic has been discovered." And you can find it easily on YouTube.
Okay.
So it does this intro to Salvia divinorum. But it's chewed, and it has a mild effect when it's chewed.
Okay.
But it's a psychedelic effect, but unfortunately, that is not how it's being used in the West.
No, yeah.
In the West, the Salvinorum which is the active Salvinorum A, which is the active molecule, the psychedelic molecule, has been isolated and then sprayed back onto plant matter, and you smoke it.
Okay.
And Salvinorum A is a very, very, very potent chemical. So you start, produce this sort of tobacco-like substance. That's not the leaves of Salvia divinorum. It's been constructed in that manner. And because it's been sort of created like that, the effects are completely different to the way it's actually used in the wild, authentically.
Okay.
So I'm going to basically explain my experiences, and then I'm going to actually there's another one when I actually bought some other drugs that I'll try and remember to cover that, write that down so I don't forget to tell you. Okay. So I bought this from a head shop in Manchester, completely legal.
Okay.
And I believe it's legal across the United States, but don't quote me on that.
I
from
don't.
some states where it isn't.
I don't think it's legal here anymore. I think it.
Is it not?
Well, at least where I lived, I remember.
Probably state by state.
Yeah. That's what it is.
Yeah. In some areas it probably is still. But I've not noticed too many YouTube videos on it coming out recently, so maybe it isn't. But regardless, it was legal here when I had it because I'm a good boy. And so I bought this stuff, and it was from a head shop, and all these shiny packets were on there. And it was right at the start. It was one of the first experiences. So I thought, that shiny packet. And so I asked this guy, I said, what's that like? And he thought it was very intense. Now, what he didn't tell me was that it was a psychedelic / deliriant. I thought it was a cannabinoid.
Okay.
Because that's what all the others were. So, this was research, just not happening.
Yeah.
This was before I started the book.
Yeah.
So I got this shiny packet, came home with it. I thought, okay, I'll have this, I'll try this cannabinoid. So, the little bong, and go outside.
Okay.
Smoke it. So, okay, step back into the kitchen. Kansas went bye-bye almost immediately. And
oh, shit.
Instead of this mild sort of, hi man, cool.
Yeah.
It was all the edges turned sharp. And I had this sort of scared feeling,
Yeah.
And it wasn't just that everything around me was changing that made me scared. There was a genuine impact of the compound that made me feel sort of terrified almost.
Okay.
So I sort of thought, for some reason I thought, get back to my office, get back here.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of trying to, and I end up on my hands and knees, and so somehow get to this desk here, and I'm sort of just trying to get to the thing to try and find some information.
Yeah.
And all these little windows and boxes are sort of sharp edges, sharp and colourful, and sort of spinning off into infinity, copies of them behind, like sort of moving, and it was just absolutely terrifying. And I was, because I was in a situation where I didn't know that this was a 5-minute ride.
Okay.
And I thought, I've really done it this time.
Yeah.
That's where I was.
Yeah.
And I thought, I need to get back to normal. Will I ever get back to normal?
Yeah.
Oh God, I've caused brain damage, and the worst possible thing I was thinking, because I just didn't actually know what the hell was going on. Except everything was colourful, and I could feel me sort of. You don't say my soul. It's not sort of religious type thing. It's sort of me being sucked out of my body.
Jesus Christ!
And it was like we're in that direction. That's why people sort of fall over.
Yeah.
And when you see videos, because you have this impression that you're being pulled. Your body's not being pulled. You were being ripped out.
Okay.
That's how I felt.
Yeah.
Up sort of out there, and I was sort of pleading, almost, begging, no, I'll never do this again.
Please, God. Please, God. I promise.
No, this is exactly what it was like.
Jesus Christ.
It takes a brave person to not panic like that.
That's terrifying.
When you're suddenly confronted with that sort of experience.
That's terrifying.
It was terrifying. It was traumatic, and it was something that made me, Then I had this sort of period where I thought I'd sort of come back. That went on for 5 minutes or so, and then it started dissipating sort of quite quickly. And then there's a sort of relief, and at that point, relief could be a source of happiness. At that point, I felt, I appreciate everything,
Yeah.
I'm not dying.
Yeah. That's what you
maybe
felt?
that's the sort of what people...
The relief. You go to hell and come back and enjoy that you're not in hell anymore.
Exactly right. But that's exactly how it was for me. And it was... I'll never forget the sort of sharpness of the sort of everything, the colours and vibrancy of it, and the way it sort of and stacks, and came back further, sometime later, when I started doing the book, I thought, I had this sort of feeling that maybe it was because I was taken by surprise. What if I did that in a McKenna-esque scenario? What if I did that knowing
what was going to happen?
Everything's going to go like that?
Okay.
Get the mindset correctly. Just lie on a bed.
Yeah. Find a safe place.
Safe place. So I thought, as terrifying that was, I really ought to do that because I can't write about Salvi Divinorum in the book. You know, if this horror ride has been induced by my ignorance rather than the drug itself. So I decided it again. And in those conditions, I went upstairs, nobody in, safe place. I had a talk on the bunk, put it down quickly, lay on the bed, and then exactly the same thing happened. So this made me
the same.
So I'm out the door,
terrified.
Thinking, what do I do?
Jesus.
And I looked up. There's a third floor to this place, and I looked up, and the stairs were sort of spinning off in sort of segments, and I had this feeling that, you know, oh God, I know I'm going to come back, but what if I come back in the wrong universe, in a multiverse?
Okay.
So because I had this inclination that each segment of it sort of arrowing out backwards was a different multiverse.
Yeah.
I'm sort of feeling that, you know, what if when I come back, I'm actually in a slightly different reality to the one I left.
Okay.
I don't know why that came to my mind, but that's exactly what came to my mind. Because in some of these sort of scenarios I was looking at, the house was different.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm trying to rationalise this horror show, and the sort of wasn't a conclusion, because one of the themes I had was that maybe I'll come back in a different, and in a way that's possibly what happened, because there'll perhaps be a multiverse universe in which I haven't taken something and I've come back.
You came back to a new one.
I've now had that experience.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah.
But I just remember at the time, and what made that thought sinister was the fact that I was terrified and I just wanted to get back to normal again. You know, so I had exactly the same sort of terror and exactly the same sort of pleading for my life. Oh God, please,
please, I promise.
And wanted to get back to just make it as it was before.
Yeah.
You know? So the idea of me sort of landing in a slightly different part of the multiverse was actually frightening to me, because I just wanted to get back.
Yeah.
Because I was so scared of what was happening.
Yeah.
And again, after that, the same relief, I got myself downstairs and I just thought, oh.
Yeah. But maybe,
I'm all right.
Maybe that is the benefit, though. Maybe that's what it is it makes you appreciate things that 5 minutes prior you didn't appreciate. You know?
I think I put that in the book, actually, that, it was only with the value of reflection and time that I understood that this helps bestow different perspective on, for me, or an additional perspective of seeing things slightly differently, have the capability of seeing things slightly differently, because I'd endured that experience and understood that, actually you were in this I hate to use words like alternative reality, but to me that was entirely real where I was.
Yeah.
And that's why it was so frightening.
Yeah.
And, having been out of this, where we are now, somewhat placed into something else, in itself, whatever that something else is, when you come back, you're never quite seeing this in the same way, because there's an entirely different sort of reality there for sure, because you've just been in it.
Yeah.
And it was a nightmare.
Yeah. Well,
and you would never want to go there.
Yeah. Well, it's like that same relief you feel when you wake up from a bad dream, And it's, you ever have a bad dream and you're like, this has to be a dream, and then you wake up, but then there's another type of bad dream where you're like, you're so convinced it's real, you're like, this isn't a dream, like this is just terrifying, you know, whatever it is. And then when you wake up from that, you ever just wake up in your bed and you know, a handful of times in my life, I've had a dream so bad, and I wake up and I'm in my room, I just spread my arms out and I hug my pillow, and I'm like, and I wake up and I'm like, how happy am I that I'm, you know, walking into the bathroom and I'm just going to go to the bathroom. Like something that you do a million times, you never think of it. Something I've done twice during this podcast, and I got to go to the bathroom. But you wake up from a terrifying dream where whatever, you know, everyone you know and love is dying, or horrible anxiety, and you wake up and you're like, I'm going to go to the bathroom. Real. I'm going to brush my teeth. Yeah. I'm going to put on some just simple shit that you're so grateful for a time, and then you forget. But yeah,
it's certainly like that. Certainly, I got back grateful, but then over a longer period, I start to reflect on the more general, you know, lessons of that, the more general, you know, philosophy of it, having been in that situation with that perspective and everything being real, and I'm not asleep, wide awake, feel myself completely got my marbles, and everything started, you know, not my mind was completely this, but it's real. Oh my God, you know, take me back home, please. You know, that was something that I saw value in downstream, but you know, again, I'm aware that if impressions that videos like this can cause, if that's what you're doing, kids, you know, I can't call you kids because I'm so old, you know, relative to most people who've seen this. If that's what you're doing, then don't use Salvi Divinorum for it.
Don't you? Okay.
No, because it is horrific, and I can imagine it could cause, you know, who knows what sort of issues with anybody who's already got psychosis or some sort of
PTSD problem, or anxiety, or it's
because it just so I wouldn't, you know, there are better drugs to sort of explore. I mean, I don't even call it a psychedelic, really. I mean, I was very hesitant to put it in the psychedelic botanical section because I thought, well, it was more delirium. It was more dysphoric. It was more sort of everything the deliriums give you, which is sort of dystopian reality and terror. Everything's horrible. You know, this was closer to that really than a psychedelic. But it was more sort of psychedelic in some senses. So I wasn't sure where to put this, but regardless, it's not one that you want to engage with lightly, because you know, you go into Mexico to find wherever that is, and I can't remember, and have it in the authentic setting and properly. It's a completely different matter. But as supplied and as generally available in the West, it's one I definitely wouldn't recommend. Physically, it doesn't. You know, I'm not aware of any fatalities. So I don't think that's the major concern here. I mean, it's just sort of the experience itself is not an experience that you actually want to undertake.
Would you say that there was any benefit from it? Did you get anything, or is it really
no? Only the fact that
it ended.
For me, only the fact that I'd existed in a completely different realm to this, and that the mere fact of that bestows certain benefits in terms of how you perceive
the world. It's
the world. But that's in terms of what was happening within the experience. It was just horrific. Both times there was nothing there, that it was just fear and you know, this feeling of everything being sucked out, and you this is it, you're dying, and you're not going to get back here again. Even though you know certainly irrational that it just so you don't want to go there wherever you've been sucked out to. And it was so no benefit from the actual experience, but only from the fact that, you know, it was somewhere other than here.
Then it's
which I think is, you know, this is why people meditate and go to places like Varanasi in India to sort of experience this complete cultural change and meditate to get the sort of, to be different to here, and they come back refreshed and have different perspectives. And that's what travel does as well as drugs, so psychedelic drugs. It bestows different perspectives, so that it can do.
Yeah.
But in terms of, I'm going to have this experience, it's not an experience you're going to actually want to have had, or an experience you want to do. And whilst you're actually in the experience, you're gonna wish on your life that you hadn't done that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too late then. You're already there.
Yeah, but I guess it makes sense you put it in the category of psychedelics, because whether good or bad, there's nothing that wipes away your current reality like a psychedelic. Whether it's you're going to a world of just love and harmony, or whether you're going into a world of just delirious dystopia. They're the same in that they replaced your current reality, and you can never forget that one exists.
That's correct. That's exactly right. I think that's and the same applies to some dissociatives, but I think that bestows more value on people who've had those experiences than people realise.
Well, it's
just the very fact that it's somewhere else other than this, enabling you to see this from an outside perspective as well as from an inside perspective.
Yeah,
that capability is really, really powerful.
There's benefits from that. We talked about that in the first episode. Like,
we did,
when you can step off the train and realize that you were even on a train.
Yeah,
and maybe it's with psychedelics, you can step off and you can go to a wonderful place. With Salvia Divinorum, it sounds like you step off and go to a horrible place, but you still stepped off.
Exactly.
And you can look back and go, okay, it was hell, but I still stepped. Okay. And that, you're right, that is, psychedelics in themselves have their own beneficial experience, but yeah, completely independent of the experience is the fact that you stepped out of the bubble. That in itself is, like you said, I think an undeniably good experience. I found that for me, like, my psychedelic experiences were wonderful and full of love, but regardless of that, the ability to know that I stepped out and went to some place completely different than this place, but equally as real, it's, for me, that's probably had the longest term effect on my life. It's, for the still have my anxiety, still have my fears, but at the very core of me, it's definitely, for the most part, gotten rid of a fear of death, because
just get a grip on your life.
Yeah, it's, I still get anxious about bills, or school, or this podcast. Is this gonna work? Am I gonna be able to make this thing into it? Still get anxious about that. Still get fearful, but at the very core, it's, I know I've been somewhere else that is as real as this. So it makes you and I always quote Terrence McKenna, but it's like, no one knows enough. What is it? You don't worry. You don't know enough to worry. Yeah, that's what it is. It's like, I can't be scared of death because, like, I've been somewhere else, and not only was it real, it was really cool. It was better than this place. Like, so how do I not know that that's just where I'm going after, my heart stops and blood stops going to my brain? Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know what the next one's gonna, what happens after I die, but, like, I definitely feel like there's something, because I've been somewhere else that I never thought was possible, and I now know, as real as this table, there are other places that you can go, and it just opens up the possibility of, other places exist. What they are, I don't know. How do you control which one you go to? I don't know. But they're there. They are there.
He says, you're no longer, you've got a life narrative. This is my thought pattern through life, and it's a linear narrative, and then eventually it stops because you die. Or and that's how you're no longer in that.
Yeah.
Once you've been outside it, you can actually get hold of that far more readily.
Yeah.
Once you've been outside and actually control it better to some degree.
Absolutely.
Not get freaked out by bumps in the road that you would do normally.
Yeah.
If you're just living in this sort of 2D line of thought after thought, and that's how your life is, and then you hit the brick wall. If you're in that and you hit a bump on the road, it's devastating.
It's scary.
Yeah, but and it still is, but not to the same degree once you've been out and you can actually see, you've actually seen that from the outside, seeing yourself almost as separate to your normal thoughts, and this separate to you because you've existed outside this.
Yes, it's like
you can handle anything that happens in there much more easily.
Yeah, it's like
than prior.
It's like watching it's like going to an IMAX movie theater. It's 3-dimensional. The sound is from all around you. It's crazy. And it's like if you went in there and watched like the scariest movie ever. The movie's still scary, but what psychedelics are is, it's like me. You get up and you go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And you go
outside the building.
You leave the theater. You go get a drink of water. Go get some popcorn, and then you go back in. The movie's still going to be scary as shit at times, but no matter how big the screen is and the sound, ultimately you're like, I know I'm just in a dark room watching a movie. Like, I can walk outside and it's sunny. Like, I can leave here. I can go to a different movie. I can go home. I can, do whatever. But there's more than just this. You're still going to jump. You're still going to, but it's to a lesser, because you're like, oh, this is scary. But you're still like, what am I going to do later? I'm going to have...
You've got a higher level of consciousness almost that you're sort of bringing into play because that, you've had the experience outside and you're not, you've described it very well.
Yeah.
And that's the one of the benefits of the salvia experience that only occurred to me afterwards. At the time, it was so horrible and traumatic that I hated it, and I thought, well, there's nothing good to come from that because it just scared me to death, and nothing good from it. Just later on down the line, I started to look at it exactly as you've described there.
Yeah.
When I'd had other psychedelics, and I thought, well, actually, it was like the other psychedelics in that sense, in that the actual leaving this stage and coming back to it gave me a perspective to manage this stage far better than I was before. More successful than I was before.
It's because
and to enjoy the ride better.
It doesn't feel as all encompassing. It doesn't feel like all your eggs are in one basket. It's not like this is, I cannot mess this up. It's like, it's still very real. It's no less real, but there's like, you can see past the curtain on the stage, and you can see there's someone
disassociation, disconnection from it.
Yeah, you can see someone walking around backstage. They take their mask off. It's you're like, oh yeah, I'm just watching a play. And the thing is unless you've done psychedelics, people that have not and are listening to us, we just sound fucking crazy.
What I was.
You can't know until you do it.
I'm thinking these guys have had too many drugs.
Yeah. You're like, oh, these. Yeah, and that's what I used to think. I had friends that do psychedelics before I ever did it, and I was just like, you guys are fucking nuts. And then I did it, and I'm like, oh, okay. It's kind of like it's weird because you come back and you almost feel like you're part of this club that, not in like some elitist, like we're part of, but more so like, you looking around and like other people that have done it, it's almost like, they've got like it's like it's like,
you get it.
Everyone else has a mask on. You guys are going around scaring them, but there's sort of like a wink, like it's not real. Like it's,
it's not real.
Yeah, but God forbid you try to tell anyone that who hasn't done it, because they're just like, you fucking lost it.
Yeah, I mean,
lock them up. Lock them up.
I was looking for keep this video secret.
Yeah.
It's every time it looks coming from me.
Yeah.
This will confirm that.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be let loose.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
But that's the funny thing is, you don't. But because you've stepped outside of it, you don't care what anyone thinks. They're like, you're crazy, and you're like, probably. It's whatever. It's
I think that was one of the things I said with in the first podcast with the ayahuasca. I wasn't given a message to do the book.
Yeah.
It was the fact that I'd been outside and I came back.
Yeah.
I wasn't at all scared anymore about what people would say or think, or whether I would be abused or attacked by the media.
Yeah.
All that became less of a concern.
That's what gave me the courage to do this podcast. Is I don't care. Not in like an apathetic sense, but it's just more so like I'm here on this ride, and the ride is real. Like, I am here, but I don't take it as seriously as before, and because of that, I'm free to, hey, let's see if we can make the ride a little more fun. Maybe instead of a normal job, maybe I do something like podcasting, And whereas before psychedelics would be, well, I can't do that because what will people think of me? And what if it doesn't work? And what am I going to do if it doesn't work? Whereas now it's like, it might not work. People might not think I'm crazy, but people might think I'm crazy. But yeah, if it doesn't work, then I'll figure something else out. But like, let's dip our toes in. Let's see, let's sit down at the table and play our hand and see what happens, because it could be awesome. And then you're like, if it's not real, you might as well try to make it as fun as you can. If it's a movie, you might as well put on the best movie ever. Like, it's, yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't have done the podcast without the psychedelics. I wouldn't have done the book without the psychedelics.
Oh yeah. Oh, I believe that entirely. I believe you entirely.
It's just the freedom that this outside perspective provides, that enables a release from the seriousness and the ride, and I think you've described it really well.
Your mindset afterwards is, I'm going to do whatever I want. I'm still not going to, do whatever I want, as long as I'm not harming anyone else, as long as I'm not hurting anyone. I don't want to cause any negativity. But in terms of worried about what people think of me,
what people think of me is quite, that just goes. You
just go, okay. It's,
that's their problem.
Yes, you're like, that's not. I'm not going to let.
I don't actually care.
I don't care. Yeah, I don't.
And that's a good thing. That's a really positive benefit from it. And
that lasts forever.
Stop worrying about what people think about you.
And it lasts forever.
Really doesn't matter. It doesn't harm you.
It's not like you have a couple shots of liquor and all of a sudden you don't care what anyone thinks of you and you're dancing, because when the liquor wears off, you care again. With psychedelics, you do it and you come back, and I haven't done them in over 4 years, but I don't care what anyone thinks.
It's not the physiological, the biological effect of the drug. No. It's what you've seen.
Yeah, it's.
I was watching a talk by someone, I can't remember his name, and he was explaining about the effects of psilocybin on depression amongst cancer patients, and that it had an 80% success rate in terms of basically making their outlook far, far, far more positive.
Yeah.
Terminal
patients.
They said it wasn't the psilocybin, because that only worked for people who'd had the mystical experience.
Yeah.
And that was the key. You had to have had the experience. The people who took the drug and didn't have the experience, which can happen, weren't cured, weren't helped in any way.
Yeah.
It was only the people who'd actually had the mystical experience that felt the benefits.
Yeah.
And I think it's not the psychedelic. it's what you experience whilst you're using psychedelic. It's what you see, what you perceive, where you are. That is what cures you of caring what other people think.
Yeah,
it's a release. It frees you from all sorts of silly anxieties and nonsense.
Yeah.
And it's nothing. You're not. It's not because you're a druggie or the drug's damaged you in any. Nothing to do with the drug because it's all gone.
Yeah.
It's to do with what you've experienced.
Yeah.
Once you've had the drug, what you've seen, and what you've perceived while you've actually been under the influence.
Yeah.
Drug's gone, flushed. Your biology is exactly the same as it was. No change to anything. Yeah. But you've had these experiences, and those experiences of what have induced this change in outlook. This more relaxed, higher perspective of things, and a host of other positive benefits. Yeah. It's the experience, and I think that's really interesting and really important for people to understand. And there's something good to get out there when people are talking about psychedelics.
Yeah,
I think that they're totally different to other drugs.
Yeah.
They are, and
it's kind of like what Alan Watts said. He said psychedelics. That's how he explained them. He said, once you get the message, hang up the phone. You still know the message. Or he's like a biologist with a microscope. It's like the biologist doesn't stare at the tissue specimen eternally. He looks at it, writes down, looks at it, writes down, and then once he's got enough of it, then he goes off and does something. Doesn't need the microscope anymore. I got it. That's what it is you can...
Yeah, it is.
You see something, you go, oh, okay. And maybe it takes 2 times, 3 times. Maybe you need to do it every once in a while to remember. But it's not this thing that like, oh, you just did drugs, and it's, you peek behind the curtain, and it's in that sense, it's like it's the most humane drug out there, because we're all in this bad dream, and you take psychedelic and you wake up for a second, you go to the bathroom, you go, oh, it's just a dream, I'm gonna jump back. You're still gonna get scared, you still gotta pay your bills, you're still gonna, there's still violence, you might get shot, there might be a nuclear war, it's still like that shit's still all there, but you're slightly, you can see the exit sign in the movie theater, it's still all there, it's loud, it's in your face, but you're like, oh yeah, it's just a movie. And
I think you're better prepared for whatever life throws at you because of that.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you get having a different perspective, and you're not going to be as likely to completely freak out over something.
Yeah.
Because you've got this sort of mechanism almost now that you have the other perspectives, and you've been outside, and therefore, this is part of the ride.
Yes.
You can do that as a sort of mental gymnastics, if you like.
Yeah.
To help you manage a situation.
Yeah.
And usually manage it better than if you're embroiled in it and everything is so, it's all there is.
It's real. It's
this is all, once you've been outside and you actually can take an outside view, even when you're in it, you can flip and flop and actually manage situations far more effectively. That's what, I've had a few dramatic situations since I did this, and then, look back on it, I think I would never have managed that so well if I tried to have the psychedelics.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't have been too fraught, too reactive. I'd have been completely, but because of the psychedelics and because of it, I was able to manage it more effectively than I could possibly have done it beforehand. I know that.
Yeah.
And it's again, it sounds to anyone who's perhaps not taken psychedelics that it does sound fruity, but it genuinely isn't.
Yeah.
This is what it's done.
Yeah.
For me, and it's what it's done for so many other people who've had psychedelics.
Yeah.
And I'm just perhaps typical.
Yeah. And it's
in what I'm reporting and stating here.
Yeah.
There's no reason why I shouldn't be typical.
Yeah.
And this is how what's happened to me since, and how I think I've managed everything differently and had a more fulfilling life as a result of it.
Yeah, and it's don't take our word for it. Go do it.
Yeah.
Go do it.
Well, you know, it's all out there for you to find out about, to explore, to read about, to watch. You know, don't jump into anything, but don't dismiss this.
Yeah.
Because we're not Fruit Loops.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people more intelligent than us.
Yes.
Who've done this, famous people.
Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs did LSD, and he said it was one of the more powerful influences in his life that led to the creation of Apple.
Yeah.
Apple. It's Steve Jobs, so it's not.
Well, one of the theories that I thought, the Silicon Valley and the revolution with IT,
microdosing,
is that it happened in California primarily, and that just happened to be where the '60s counterculture revolution had just exploded, and everybody was taking LSD.
Not a coincidence.
Not everybody, but you know what I mean.
Yes, it's not. Hey, it's like Wall Street. They use like cocaine and liquor to enhance their business. If you're looked up, let's finish this up. But microdosing in Silicon Valley, apparently that's how they get the competitive edge. That's because it's all about
creativity.
It's creativity. That's
no doubt all about.
And creativity that's the name of the game out there. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not how long and hard can you work. It's can you step outside, and can you have a vision for something like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, because it's. Can you see something that, it's one of those inventions that something gets created and everyone goes, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah.
So it's not this.
Because you didn't have psychedelics.
You weren't taking fucking acid. So in conclusion, take LSD and you'll be a billionaire and create. That's what we're saying. That's what we're saying out there. So everyone listening, you heard it here first. Go take psychedelics and you will be richer than your wildest dreams.
or as Leary would say, what is it? Drop acid. I can't remember.
Turn on, tune in, drop out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the alternative.
Yeah, it is.
To make you money.
Yeah, it's. Yeah. So, yeah.
One last thing I should.
Oh yeah, sure.
Because I think this is while we're on the subject of psychedelics and consciousness and perspective. There's a well-known and Leary. It's the Leary thing that
Timothy Leary
sprung just to mind. There's Timothy Leary invented the 8-circuit model. Have you heard of the 8-circuit model?
Yeah.
And it's each circuit of consciousness, starting with what he called the neuroatomic metaphysiological circuit, and Robert Anton Wilson he called it something else. But basically, you're born with a certain level of consciousness, and you develop with each level of these eight levels of consciousness. There's a drug associated with each of them.
Oh, really?
And you probably some of them are obvious. Alcohol makes you territorial, so that's level 2.
Okay.
Stimulants are sort of level 3 because they're analytical, machine-like.
Uh-huh.
Right up to level 8, which is obviously dimethyltryptamine.
Yeah.
Which takes you to a higher level of consciousness, and that's
okay.
a table there which tries to sort of explain all that.
Okay.
And that ties into what, that came to mind when you were talking about Wall Street have cocaine.
Yeah.
People in California, the creators of psychedelics. This is known stuff, and it's not sort of just hypothesizing off the top of our heads.
It's absolutely.
This is actually. There are actually theories and psychologists are involved, and psychiatrists like Lee was a psychiatrist. I think Tom Wilson might have been. I might be wrong on that. But this is actually not not hypothesis on our part. This is a known sort of mapping and a theory and a proposition.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in that, it's something to actually. Well, it's in the book, but it's out there.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah, it's not just a hypothesis. It's like, who did crystal meth? The fucking Nazis. Like, you know, they use it to become gods. To
that level. Yeah, that's right.
Blitzkrieg, bulldoze through countries, feel invincible, never stop. You know, Hitler. That's what he was on, and it's you can even but yeah, you're right. It's not just. You know, there's a reason why there's the stereotype of the Wall Street CEO, you know, doing cocaine and let's go with
Well, it helps them be more effective in what the function is in functional life, and that's why they do it.
Yeah, that's the game there, and it's not a theory. I mean, there are articles written by people out in Silicon Valley saying, that's how you get the edge is you take 5 micrograms of LSD every day, microdosing. You know, it's they describe it as is if you see even the slightest wiggle, you've taken too much. So they say say you don't even want to know that you took it. You didn't take nothing. Like, you took something, but right to where things start to change, and then take one step back. And they said stay there, because you'll still be a completely functional person. Not only that, you'll get ahead. That's how you invent shit. That's how you come up with Google Drive, or that's how you come up with Snapchat, or it's stuff that seems so simple that you see it and you're like, how did I not think of that? But that's wise, because these guys are just stepping outside the game. Not entirely, they're not getting loaded, but they're just peeking over the edge. So like we said, take acid and you'll be a billionaire.
Well, I mean, there's lots of videos on this, so after watching this, go and search them out. Robert Anton Wilson was one of them.
Yeah.
Did the 8, or just search on the 8 circuit model.
Yeah.
And that sort of goes through. There's a talk by Wilson that is really good on that, which I've watched a couple of times.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much for doing it.
Nice to talk to you.
You too. And hey, don't be a stranger. Let's do another one. Let's grab Let's grab 3 more drugs and dive into it.
Okay, I'll give some thought to which 3.
Please do. Let's.
Glossy meth and salvia this time. I don't know what I'll come up with next time, but I'll
Sit on it. Think of what you think would be a diverse conversation, and we'll jump right back in. We'll do it again.
Okay, doke.
All right, man. Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
You too.
No, it's not night there. It's afternoon. Have a good afternoon.
It will be night, so I'll take it.
Okay.
All right, man. Hey, always good to talk to you, and I can't wait to see you again. All right.
Okay. Ditto.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.